My name is Sigrid Vitara. I'm the YouthForce Executive Director for Boys and Girls Club of King County.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Marty Jackson, and I'm the Southeast Network Executive Director for Boys and Girls Clubs of King County.
So YouthForce is college readiness and workforce development.
Wonderful. That's great.
So the Southeast Network, we really were created to provide violence intervention and prevention services. And then that was when we initially started back in 2009. However, we've expanded that body of work to include care management, intensive care management for young people, restorative practice, along with community safety. I think for me, especially in the last couple of months, this work I've been doing this for a little over 30 years, and this work can really can be discouraging sometimes, especially when we lose young people, whether it be to gun violence or not, but we've lost a number of young people to gun violence just this year, and I can't even compare to years prior to. But when you've built really close relationships with young people, when you are investing, time and resources and energy into wanting to see them thrive, and finding out when you lose a young person can really take a toll. I think doing not just myself, but my team. Sure, Sigrid can speak to that as well, because part of choosing these kinds of careers, I know for me it was a choice in wanting to serve my community in this way, in having, enjoying and wanting to put and invest as much as possible into our young people to create an environment where they could be successful. So to lose them, to think about, I'm a mother and a grandmother, so that comes into play, not just me as a practitioner. It really touches the human side of what you do, right? And you think about parents having to bury their children. It's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. And so anytime, whether we know a kid or not, it touches on a home for us, because there are kids that we were extremely close to that we've also lost. And so I think because of the influx just in the last 2 or 3 months, it really, I think, brings you to a place of thinking about why you do this. Because if you don't think about all of the young people who are alive and who are doing well and why we do it, even for young people that we've lost, I think it just is a reminder of why I stay in this work. No matter how discouraging it may be, we still have to stay committed, to this field of work, because who else is going to do it, right? And so that's the impact that it's had on me lately.
I think that you can't do this work without caring. That is something that is not listed on the job description, but it's very significant. With our jobs, mine in particular, what we do is give them resources so that they can be successful, getting them to their first jobs, and making sure that they're ready for that, ready for college. We even offer internships for them. And so with that, even some of our staff that are not, don't have the title as a case manager, I like to think all of us are case managers, because we all help out in one way or another. If there is a youth that comes in and their case manager is not around, the rest of us will fill in. And in that manner, we get to know a lot of the youth. I don't do a lot of the direct services at this point. However, it's just a joy seeing them. And when this happens, we're all impacted. Just in the last month, we've lost 3 of our interns that have been part of our program, and even more in the past. And I think with that, you do end up feeling helpless, because you can't do anything at that point. But that's where we all come back together and even speak to the youth that are still here. And what can we do to help you out? You know, and I know that with your program, with the healing circles, I think that's tremendous. And you know, we do our own little healing circles, if I may, even within our staff and our interns that come in every single day that impact our lives. You know, give us joy when they come in because, you know, like one of our interns that's in this room right now, they walk in and they're like, your favorite is here. You know, and they bring joy to us in our lives because we care about them.
What motivates both of you?
To me, it's just, why not do the work? Who else is going to do it? It might as well be the people that care about youth, you know. I think, you know, with that, it's, you know, one of the things that I always say is when I hire somebody, the first question is about why are you getting into this job? And if they don't say anything about, you know, because of the youth or because of the kids, I stop listening. I mean, I'll be straight up with that because it's, you have to care in order to do this job. And, you know, being able to know that there's another youth that you can help out or another young person that you could help out, that just says it all, you know.
Full transparency for me. I asked myself that question and have wanted to quit the work, if I'm honest. I mean, I think there are seasons of when this has happened for me in doing this work. Because it's been a number of years, it makes me think back on some of the young people that I've lost in the past. And when you go through that and it starts to take a toll on you, you do feel like quitting. I have to sometimes kind of remind myself or do an assessment of, is it, maybe I should just resign. Maybe this is just too much and I should just not do this anymore. And so I go through those seasons of that in feeling discouraged or feeling hopeless. I think what motivates me, it seems like anytime I'm in that season, I end up seeing a kid that I'm close to, they either show up. I mean, we've had kids show up from deployment from, you know, military, like come straight here. We've had kids who may have gotten out of, you know, the penitentiary and come straight here to see us and to see me. And I think that, I think God has a way of like giving you these kind of moments of motivation through kids that you've worked with. There are kids that are thriving that I know of that are working in a number of different places and spaces, just really living, right? And part of what we're always, what the goal is that when you get young people who are in that survival mode, how do we get them to a place of thriving, right? What does that look like, right? And it isn't something that we do in terms of the change, it's what we provide in giving kids options and choices, and then they make their choices, right? And to see kids, like I've been able to see young people that I've served and have a relationship with who are married, right? With kids, with a number of kids, with families who are working, you know, and doing well. And so I think that when I see those young people, when I get a call or a visit, or sometimes it's staff, you know, reminding us, hey, I just ran into such and such, and they're doing this now, and just to see the amazing things that our young people are doing, then I'm reminded of those young people. I'm reminded of the young people who still need our support. Sigrid talked about care. You absolutely have to have like care and like really love what you're doing and love the people that you're doing it with along who you're serving, because kids, this becomes a family. Not just the people I work with, but the young people.
Yes.
They all, you would think we're all related to the young people we serve. They call me auntie, I mean, there are these terms of endearment that we always talk about, but it's the relationships we create.
Yes.
We can provide services to anyone, but I think it's the relationships that we create with young people. Like when you sit down and take the time to get to know a young person for who they are, without judgment, and really let them know who you are and be able to show a little bit of you as just a person, and not, you know, in our kind of formal roles that we play here. I think that's when you really see some transformation, right? It's through that we have access, right, to each other. And then it's through caring about young people and showing acts of kindness to show them you care, because young people are very honest. They will they will let you know in some kind of shape, form, or fashion, whether it is verbally or non-verbally, that, I don't want to talk to you, or I don't want to work with you. And so, but in that same light, they also show you that because they see you care, that's when they open up. That's when kids become the most vulnerable. And it's during that vulnerability, right, those vulnerable times where they feel safe, and when a kid can really talk to you about something personal or share something and be transparent and not feel judged and feel safe to say it, I think that's really when we start to see the transformation. And then providing all of these resources and everything else that's needed really helps to just give kids options and opportunities to be who they're going to be anyway, right? To be these great human beings that they're going to be now and who they're going to become. And so I think that's what contributes to a young person thriving, and that's what makes me come back to work and not turn that letter of resignation in, and continue to keep at it and stay committed to it.
Yeah, because there's a lot of success coming out of both of your programs for
Yes.
sure. And that's got to be the most rewarding thing, finally, you know, seeing that student get that job, or, you know, like you said, get married, or having, you know, more of an outreach in their own communities too.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And that's beautiful. Really my last question, and of course if there's anything I forgot to ask, for both of you, what do you think can help your programs, or how can someone watching this do something to be part of the positive change here?
There's a lot of things. You want to go ahead?
Sure. I would say be a part of the solution and not the problem. I think that people think if they're not engaged, or if it doesn't impact me directly, then I don't have to contribute, because it's really not my issue, because I'm not directly impacted by it. I think now more than ever, in kind of looking at trends over the years, I think gun violence, just locally, but across the country, have impacted a whole lot of neighborhoods that it typically hasn't in the past. Now, coming from a community of color, I'm from the Rainier Beach community, and I came back to work where I grew up. And so it's unique in that I do know what it's like in the space, right? And I think about all of the young people who are also coming up in these neighborhoods where gun violence, unfortunately, isn't a new thing, but I think that we're seeing more attention brought to it, because it's broader now. Now it's not just our neighborhood, it's other neighborhoods that might be considered more affluent. And so, which is, you know, it isn't okay, but at the same time, that awareness that's being brought to it is helping to bring more resources. And so what I'll say is this: growing up in the neighborhood and only the negative or gun violence being highlighted is just insulting. There are so many positive things that have happened in our neighborhood, in my neighborhood. There are so many young people who have come up from our neighborhood who are doing extremely well. I think that the young people that we have, currently as well, are just brilliant. And I think that your environment shouldn't determine, right, or decide who you are as a person or define you. However, I also think that telling a different narrative for those of us who grew up in those neighborhoods around how rich the culture is, how much love and care there is from everyone in the neighborhood also is something that isn't told often. And so I think that in thinking about all of this, I say that to say, time, talent, or treasure. that is what I'm asking folks. How can you contribute, right? Instead of looking, at the media or being discouraged by it, because as you've heard from us, we've been discouraged a number of times. But what can you do, right? What can you do to contribute to stopping gun violence? I mean, part of what we need are more resources. We have found, even with all of the organizing and mobilizing within community around community safety, we need more people, more boots on the ground. We need more resources because it has increased, especially looking at homicides amongst young people between the ages of like 12 and 17. It's increased a whole lot than in the past. And in looking at all of the violent crimes happening right now and the impact of gun violence, why wouldn't we need more resources? And so there are things that are working. I hate the narrative that's out there that there's nothing's working and because people are being reactive, or maybe you're motivated by fear. We can't afford to be motivated by fear. There's too many young people who are alive right now who need that care, who need that love, who need resources. And then we also have families we're supporting of the young people we've lost. Like, they're not just forgotten or ignored because the young person we did work with isn't here anymore. We still have to provide that level of support to the families, staying in touch and letting them know we care about them. But we need dollars, funding to do that. Like the time we take, and trust me, I know I could speak for both of us in saying that 40 hours a week we're supposed to work easily turns into 60 and 80.
Right.
Because when you care, you don't track the time that it takes for you to show that kind of care. And so for us, I'm gonna reiterate, we ask that everybody be a part of the solution around ending gun violence. Your talent, or your treasure. I think that everyone plays a different role, and I think that they should, right? Because I don't expect everybody to do what we do. Everybody's not called to this, and so you should not do this. This is not your calling in life. Don't do it. It's not gonna serve you well. However, everyone has a role in the ecosystem that we're all a part of, and we all have to contribute. And so I would say challenge everyone to contribute. How can you, and when will you?
Yeah.
Beautifully said.
I think what I would add to that, everything that she said, but also I would, this is going to be seen by a lot of people. And like Marty said, not everybody's in this calling. I think as parents, aunties, relatives, or caregivers, get to know your youth and find out what they're getting into. And if there's any kind of have that relationship with them, listen to them. And that way, maybe it will, prevent them from going down a pathway where, they find this as a solution, gun violence as a solution. And, and educating them to know what the results or the consequences are for the violence. Because I think that's one of the things is that a lot of our youth are desensitized to this because they don't know the actual consequences of their actions. And also, let's talk to our policymakers. That's one of the things that our youth that went to DC with their project of gun violence, they ended up speaking to the legislative aides of Senator Murray and Cantwell and Rep. Jayapal. And so I would like that to be a call to action for our policymakers to come and listen to our youth and see where they're at and not them speaking to our youth, but them listening to our youth. I think that that would be huge, you know, and safety also. Making sure that you teach your young, the youth in your areas, people that you care about safety, because it's not just all the things that come along with safety. You know, walking down the street, how you carry yourself, all the different things. You know, that's just like basic. But there's one of the things that our interns are doing. They're actually going to be creating a presentation around safety and what they feel is are things that our youth need. So it's youth talking to youth about safety. So.
I am a part of community organizations who have come together. We've been organizing and really mobilizing resources, but also working in partnership with government to to expand resources for what's happening, because there are capacity challenges right now because there's so much happening in different parts of the city. It has been difficult. There's only a certain number of people and you can only be one place at a time. And so I will say there's an initiative called 100 Days of Peace that has been initiated and that has started in response to what's been happening as it relates to gun violence in our neighborhoods and in the city and the county. And so, and there also is support that is happening from the county, and we're looking also for support from the city side of things as well. And so that also is part of increasing those resources. Part of the call to action earlier is, I think people think that if you're not in government or you're not a part of an institution, that you don't have a responsibility. And that was really a call to anybody and everyone, because I think this is an all hands on deck kind of situation where we really just need everyone to contribute, because part of changing or ending gun violence is changing the culture.
Right.
And we have been successful in certain spaces within the neighborhood, changing the culture of the environment, specifically in the Safeway parking lot, and creating a space of safety, not on our own, but with community. And when that culture starts to shift and change, that's when we've seen less incidents happening in spaces. So.
Wonderful. Okay.